Good morning. I feel like I won the Ananda lottery this morning because every year at Christmas, as soon as our Christmas banquet is over, Christmas Day, our Christmas altar gets taken down. And I always feel so sad about that. In part, of course, just because it's beautiful and we've been living in that just extraordinary vibration. In fact, the whole world mostly, or much of the whole world, let me put it that way, has been living in that vibration, that uplifted, joyful place of possibility and beautiful probability. And then we finish eating and everything just goes away. And then we come back to this reading the next Sunday, the Divine Ascension. And I miss the altar. And today, you may notice, somehow we didn't take the altar down. So it's beautiful. Baby Jesus is only 2 days old today, so it's perfect that we still have him up there. This is quite an amazing way to end our year-long readings. Of course, no surprise, because Swamiji's consciousness just fills every one of these readings. I mean, he's taken these, really one of Master's missions to the West to sort of pair the Gita and the Bible. And Swamiji's just done that so beautifully throughout the whole year. And in my mind, I may be making some of this up, because I could never speak to Swamiji about it. But it seems to me there are moments where I can just feel the lessons deepening, getting a little more subtle, being, I don't know, the first few lessons are pretty uplifted and expansive, but there's something for me about the way that the Bible readings and Swamiji's commentaries just grow and carry my soul with it throughout the year. How many years have we all just gone through this same cycle? I was thinking, this is a little bit of an aside, but it came to me last night when I was reading I always read the book from the reading from Rays of the One Light. Excuse me. I read that reading a few times the night before I give service, and then I sit and meditate with it, and then I'll read it again and meditate. And I just was realizing with such gratitude, really is the only way to describe it, how each year with each of these readings, and I felt it yesterday with this one, that it just comes in a different way. It comes into a different, I feel so much more, I don't know, available to it, open to it, able to receive it. I guess that means I and probably all of us are making some spiritual progress. But this reading was so beautiful yesterday and so utterly profound, and to think that the importance of the reading, which is the essence of our spiritual path, it's certainly the essence of Christmas as well, comes down to one word. It's that one word, one letter, I. I am the way and the truth and the life. And for 2020 years, people have been arguing over, at best, what does that mean? Of course, we all know that the traditional Christian understanding of that is that refers to Jesus the man. I've repeated many times, so just with a little short version of it, that story of a patient who asked me once, in the midst of a 15-minute visit, if I was a Christian. And I paused for a moment. Mind you, I had my doctor hat on. It wasn't a Sunday morning in this temple. And I said, I am a Christian, but I don't think you would think so. And later in the visit, right before it was ending, he said to me, do you believe that Jesus Christ is the only begotten child of God and that he died on the cross for our sins? And I had had a very nice and successful medical visit with this man, so I felt a little badly about this, but I had to say to him, I'm really sorry, but I don't. And he paused for a moment, and then he said to me, with such sincerity, how did you know I wouldn't believe you were a Christian? I mean, it was actually sweet in a way. It was so predictable. As soon as really somebody says to you with the energy that he did, are you a Christian? You can just fill in all of the blanks. And of course, then we've had the incredible blessing of having Master come and then Swamiji come as our interpreter to show us what that I really means, that Jesus is referring to, of course, a state of consciousness. It has nothing to do with him. In fact, he tells us, him, Jesus, the man, so many times throughout the Bible, everything I am, you are too, and more. He says it in many ways, at many times. He comes with, from the moment of his birth, he has come exactly for this reason. He has come as an embodiment of cosmic Christ consciousness. And the only meaning for his birth is to share that with us, show us how to live it, encourage us to expand into it. And I was wondering yesterday about how challenging that is. Of course, I'm not surprised. I've listened for years, spoken for years about the ego. We talk about it all the time, about Maya, about delusion, how powerful it is. But I thought it is so hard for us, so just incredibly hard, in fact, impossible in many moments to identify that consciousness within us, that we spend lifetimes identifying with our limitations. That's really what we do, that we cannot see Christ consciousness as within ourselves. And I thought, when you hear these Bible stories, this just came to me yesterday. I don't know if anybody else in the world would interpret it this way, but several of Jesus' disciples denied knowing him. They denied being with him. I mean, it's a major part of the story. But I thought, could this be a part of what that meant? That they really can't, just like we can't. Much of the time, we cannot see ourselves as being whole, as being complete, as also being a pure manifestation of divine light, of God himself. We just can't see it. We can't live there. And I thought when those disciples said, I didn't see him, I wasn't with him, I don't know him, maybe they were just being human and showing us, boy, this is hard. It's hard to live in that reality. I've been speaking so much about St. Francis recently. There was this beautiful inspiration this year, which I have a feeling will become a tradition. The inspiration was delivered through Lakshmi, who then spread it out to many people in the congregation, and their inspiration came into it also. That was the 12 days of Christmas. So unlike our usual, where it's Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, which has always been so beautiful, we actually had 12 days leading up to and including Christmas. It was an amazing amount of fun. It was also so uplifting. It was so filled with joy and with that consciousness that is the Christ. And we've all just been living in that. So it allowed us to expand in ways that we don't often before Christmas. Many ways. It's all available for you to watch it. Probably by now on YouTube, but if not, at least still on our live stream channel. But one of the things that happened for me was to be able to speak and listen a lot about St. Francis. There was a whole night that was dedicated to him. And for those of you who were in our Christmas satsang 2 days ago, forgive me for telling this story again. But my own desire to dive deep into the story of the beginning of the creche, because of course St. Francis was the person who brought the creche to us. What an incredible inspiration that was, that there was a soul who knew. Of course he did. I mean, not even a couple years later, he was given the stigmata, the first saint that we know of. So here was a saint that was so highly evolved that he was about to live the embodiment of Christ. It's so powerful beyond words. But no surprise then that he had the inspiration to recreate the scene of the birth of Jesus so that we would all come back to it every year, knowing, as he did, that we would forget, that we would be identified with our limitations and not remembering that we are also the embodiment of Christ consciousness. You know, I'm going to ask Keshava if I forget them now, because it's hard to remember words of a song when you're not singing it. But the last lines of the song he just sang, he said, "Children rejoice, for lo, the Spirit of God comes in full splendor. It waits but your sight." It's just, God is always there, waiting for us to open our eyes, but it's really opening our spiritual eye and allow that to come in. That is the eye. The eye is the eye, in fact. And we just have to open to it. But St. Francis knew, of course, we're not there yet. We didn't have his consciousness. Francis awakened to Christ consciousness throughout that life. We could all watch that happening. And then it wasn't 2 or 3 years before he left his body that he brought the creche and all of the important aspects of the creche. But what's most important right now is that he brought it to us. So every year we relive this scene and we remember. And now, at least for a while at Ananda, we'll do it for 2 weeks. We'll wake up and up and up until Christmas Eve comes, and we are so ready to live in the eye. We've arrived maybe closer to that for each of us than we've ever been before. And we'll be reminded next year, for those of us who don't make it into Samadhi in 2021. by the time 12, 24, 21 comes, we'll be able to be reminded, because Francis knew that was his contribution to reminding us. It's one of many, but the ways that he did it, to say, look at this. This child was born in such simplicity, such poverty, such humility, actually meaning all of those words in their highest spiritual meaning. And yet, he came in as pure light. It didn't matter what the physical surroundings were. It didn't matter the wealth of his family, that his father was a carpenter, his father on earth. Nothing mattered. He came as light. And people who were there at the creche scene, they said that there was nothing in the manger, that light started emanating from the manger. And I thought, of course it would, because there was nothing there materially, but Jesus was there. Jesus is always there. Now, each of these great saints have a different way of bringing the essence of these teachings to us. Of course, Francis had a whole life. Jesus had a whole life. But if you listen to the Beatitudes, I think particularly, Jesus said, here's 8 blessings that I'll give to you. 8 blessings I will tell you. You live these, and the light is yours. I found this very beautiful. Some author, when he was talking about the Beatitudes online last night, he said, Beatitude is a possession of all things held to be good, from which nothing is absent that a good desire may want. It's so beautiful. Beatitude is a possession of all things held to be good, from which nothing is absent that a good desire may want. What does that mean? It means when you're living the Beatitudes, blessed are the pure in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the poor. And it just goes on, all with spiritual meaning and understanding. But in each of them, we have ascended to that love, that I, that state of I, that state of consciousness for which there is no desire for any other good. There's no room for anything else. We're not living in our little self, wanting this, wanting that, being fooled, if you will. No, we're living in this expanded state. It's a possession of all things held to be good that leaves no room for any want for anything else. You know, it's very interesting. My granddaughters drove up yesterday from Los Angeles. They are lovely little beings, little souls. I'm very close with them. There's really a lot of love that flows between us, but they're good people. They're very good people. And they asked if they could have one little present last night because we've delayed Christmas, because I was here this morning instead of there. So then they have to wait even longer. It's hard when you're a kid. And we said, of course. So I tried to find 2 little presents, not give them anything big. And they opened them, and quite frankly, I have this experience many times at Christmas. I receive gifts that everybody's intention was the best, particularly with our families. You know, if I might say, gee, I'd love to get whatever this year, I need a new purse. Somebody will buy me a purse. By the way, I've never asked for a purse, but this is an example. And when it comes, maybe it's 50-50, maybe the odds aren't even that good, that I'm going to like that purse. That may well not be the purse for me. So that happened last night. I could see it. There were no words. One of the presents was a big win. One of them was, not so great. So this morning in meditation, it came to me. Write a letter to them. And I did. I actually wrote a long text to them because they just got phones. They're very into texting. And I said, you know, you're about to have this big Christmas day. You're going to receive a lot of gifts. We do it on Zoom with all the relatives spread all over the country. I said, you know, some of them you'll love, some of them you won't. Fair enough. But the material gift is only one part of it, and it's the lesser part of it, I said to these two children. But I said the biggest gift is the love behind it, the intention, the fact that people thought about you, that they put their best intentions in everything they had into getting you something that would please you because they love you. They took their time and energy in the form of love, and they did that. So when you open a gift, you may or may not like it, the gift, but you can always love the love. You can always appreciate and receive the love behind it, which is the gift that is priceless. The material gift, you could buy a different shirt or sweater or purse or shoes, always. Fortunately, you're in a position where you can do that. The love is irreplaceable. And in a way, I wasn't thinking of this talk then, but it's very much true for all of us. We spend so much time in our little selves that we easily forget that big, beautiful picture. We forget what is our birthright, the same birthright that Jesus came in with, exactly the same. It needs but our sight is really the truth. And then, although I rarely do this, but this extraordinary Gita reading for today, very brief, I don't have it in front of me, but it doesn't matter. Krishna's saying, wherever you are, God's going to find you there and love you there. As is so often the case, the Gita reading is so comforting. It's so comforting for those of us who are as yet imperfect. And this happens very often throughout the year. Krishna will say, bring me a leaf and I'll receive it like you're bringing me everything. If this fails, if that fails, if everything fails for you, bring me your failures. Krishna's always there saying, I'm right here. Wherever you are, I'm there. And it was hitting me last night. I was feeling perhaps comforted myself. And I started thinking about the different yugas. Krishna lived during Treta Yuga, a yuga that was just easier. Truth could prevail in different ways. Jesus lived in Kali Yuga, descending, very dark time, getting darker, and then St. Francis comes in at about the darkest moment. Much harder for them. They had to teach in very different ways. But here's Krishna, and of course it's the truth, because God is everywhere. And because wherever we are, as Swamiji and Master have told us, we all want to know love. We all want to feel less pain. Swamiji writes somewhere that in our highest state of upliftment, we experience it as joy. When it's a little more emotional, we call it happiness. When it's at the physical pain, we call it pleasure. And if we're totally unconscious, we call it a few moments away from pain. And it's so perfect the way he outlined it. But wherever we are there, people are taking a next step and a next step. We are all drawn inexorably toward that light. But what an amazing thing to know that the light's waiting for us. I mean, just no matter where we are. So God just finds us, no matter how simple our effort is or how grand it is. And we can hold that. But we also want to do the best we can with this extraordinary incarnation that we've been given. I'll end with this. Somebody left this in my house over the last few days. Honestly, I don't remember who. If you're watching, thank you. As part of a gift. And I think it came with other things, but it was the gift. It's a beautiful copy of the Vow of Superconscious Living that Swami Kriyananda wrote. I'm not going to read the whole vow, but the first lines are, I vow from this day forth to be true to my higher superconscious self. I vow from this day forth to be true to my highest superconscious self. We have been given such a gift, this extraordinary gift of this avatar's knowing explanation of what the birth of Christ consciousness means. What we are celebrating every year is the birth of Christ consciousness within ourselves. We are handed that. Those are not just words. We can live it with these words. From this day forth, to be true to our higher superconscious self. If we did nothing but read that line, that is the great gift that the Christ child, the baby Jesus, brought to us, that St. Francis brought for us to remind us that Master came to say, let me tell you what this really means. So this song, children rejoice, for now the kingdom of God comes in full splendor. It awaits but our sight.
Children of God, your time of trial has ended. See where the dawn irradiates the night. Soon all your tears will rise like dew to the sun. Sorrows will turn to joy, your griefs to delight. Children, rejoice, for lo, the kingdom of God comes in full splendor.